Welcome to the deep dive. We cut through the noise to get you informed, fast. So you're probably dreaming of your next trip, right? Scrolling those amazing photos, imagining yourself there. But then, reality bites. You start adding it all up. Flights, hotels, activities, food. It gets expensive. And let's be honest, travel costs seem to be climbing. Airfare, inflation, the works. So right as you're about to click book, that big question pops up. Is travel insurance actually worth the extra money? That's what we're diving into today. We've looked at insights from sources like Money and Forbes Advisor to help you figure this out. Our goal, to unpack what really matters, cut through the confusing stuff, and help you decide if insurance makes sense for your specific trip. And believe me, there are some surprising things in the fine print, details that could mean a huge difference, especially if you run into trouble overseas.
That really is the core issue, isn't it? Because it's not just a simple yes or no answer. It honestly depends a lot on, well, your financial situation, how much risk you're comfortable taking when you travel. We want to give you the insights, the nuances, so you can make a really informed choice for yourself.
Okay, let's dig in then.
Yeah.
Based on what these articles are saying, when is travel insurance generally seen as a smart move? Like, what are the big triggers?
Well, both Money and Forbes Advisor jump right on trips with significant non-refundable costs. If you've put down a serious amount of cash money you've worked hard for on flights, hotels, tours that you just can't get back if plans change, then protecting that investment, that becomes a really strong reason to consider it. And we're not talking small amounts. U.S. travelers often spend thousands on trips, so there's real money at stake.
Right, losing thousands would sting. A lot.
Exactly. And beyond just the cost of the trip itself, there's another huge factor, particularly for international travel. If you're heading outside the U.S., travel medical insurance isn't just like a nice to have, it can be absolutely essential. And here's that surprising bit, your regular U.S. health plan. It often gives you zero or very, very limited coverage overseas.
Oh, wow. Zero coverage. That's risky.
It really is. Think about it, a simple accident, maybe you slip on some old steps in Europe, twist an ankle badly, suddenly you might need serious medical care, or worse, medical evacuation if the local facilities can't handle it. Forbes mentioned Alliance figures. We're talking potential costs of $20,000, maybe $200,000, sometimes even more for that evacuation.
Whoa. $200,000.
Yeah.
That's life-changingly expensive.
Okay,
Right?
it's enough to ruin more than just your vacation, that's for sure. And that links to another point. If the healthcare where you're going isn't equipped for major emergencies, that evacuation coverage is vital.
So it's not just about getting your flight money back. It's about potentially avoiding crippling medical debt that your normal insurance just, washes its hands of internationally. Yeah. That's a huge layer of security.
Precisely. And the sources kind of extend that logic. Think about where you're going. Is it a place known for, say, hurricanes during a certain season? Or maybe you have a complex trip plan, multiple flights, different cities.
Yeah, more chances for things to go wrong, like delays or lost bags.
Right. Insurance can help cushion those blows. And finally, there's personal uncertainty. Maybe you're caring for someone, a child or an elderly parent, and things are unpredictable. Or your job situation is a bit up in the air. If you suspect something outside your control might force you to cancel, that's another strong pointer towards getting a policy.
Okay, so it really sounds like it boils down to creating a safety net, minimizing financial risk. Money called that a primary benefit, didn't they?
They did. Peace of mind and minimizing financial risk.
But let's get more specific. Beyond just that broad security, what actual, concrete benefits can a decent policy offer when you're, out there exploring?
That's a great question. The core benefits are pretty significant when you look closer. First, as we just touched on, it's covering those medical expenses and emergencies abroad. It's a common and honestly quite dangerous assumption that your U.S. health plan travels with you. For most people, it just doesn't, not adequately anyway. So, a broken leg skiing overseas. That could easily turn into a massive bill without specific travel medical coverage to fill that gap. It's designed for those short-term needs during your trip.
Okay, the medical part is clearly huge. What else?
Then there's the straightforward protection against losing your trip investment, getting reimbursed for some or maybe all of those non-refundable costs if you have to cancel or interrupt your trip for a covered reason. And since people often spend thousands getting back money for flights, hotels, tours, that's a major plus.
Makes sense. Protect the money you've already spent.
Exactly. But here's something often overlooked and really valuable. Many comprehensive policies include travel assistance and sometimes concierge services.
Assistance. Like, what does that mean?
Think of travel assistance as this 24/7 helpline. It's for urgent problems, maybe finding a doctor who speaks English in an emergency, help replacing a lost passport, arranging emergency transport home if there's a crisis, even helping you get out of a dangerous situation. It's that kind of critical support.
Wow, okay. That's serious help. And concierge?
Concierge services are more for the everyday travel stuff, like getting hotel or dinner reservations, maybe booking tickets for a show or suggesting activities. Less urgent, more convenience.
That's actually a pretty amazing range of support, from emergency evacuations to booking dinner. It really does sound like it adds confidence and flexibility, too. But, okay, there's always a catch, right? Every silver lining. Let's look at the downsides, the limitations. What do Money and Forbes Advisor warn us about?
Yeah, definitely some important catches. The first and most obvious one for many is simply the cost. Travel insurance isn't free. Money suggests it averages, what, between 4% and 8% of your total trip cost. Forbes Advisor puts it maybe a little tighter, 5% to 6%.
So on like a $5,000 trip, that's maybe $200 to $400.
Roughly, yeah. That's a fair estimate. So it's an added expense you need to budget for. And then there's the simple fact that, well, you might not use it.
Right, like any insurance. You pay the premium whether you make a claim or not.
Exactly. You're paying for the what if, for the peace of mind, which might be worth it to you, but you might end up paying for a service you never actually need.
Okay, cost and maybe not using it. What else? This sounds like where the fine print comes in.
Oh, this is the big one. And honestly, where a lot of frustration comes from, it's understanding that travel insurance works by inclusion, not exclusion.
Inclusion, not exclusion. What does that mean exactly?
It means a policy only covers what is specifically listed as a covered reason or benefit. If something isn't mentioned in that policy document, assume it's not covered.
Ah, okay. So you can't just assume, oh, it's insurance, it'll cover problems. You have to see if your specific problem is listed.
Precisely. And this really raises that key question. Are people paying for insurance thinking they're broadly covered, only to get a nasty surprise when they actually need to make a claim?
That sounds like a major pitfall. Can you give some examples of those common exclusions, the things that catch people out?
Absolutely. The list can be long. For instance, general exclusions often cover known global events, like epidemics or pandemics. COVID-19 was a huge example. If you bought a policy after COVID was declared a pandemic, many policies wouldn't cover cancellations related to it because it was already a known issue.
So timing matters. Buying insurance before something becomes a known, predictable problem is key.
Critically important. Another big one. Pre-existing medical conditions. Generally, if you've had symptoms or treatment for a condition within a certain look-back period, maybe 60 to 180 days before buying the policy, it won't be covered.
Oof, that could affect a lot of people. Is there any way around that?
Sometimes. Some policies offer a waiver for pre-existing conditions, especially if you buy the policy very soon after booking your trip, like within a week or two. Or if your condition is stable and your doctor says you're okay to travel, but you have to check the specifics.
Okay. What else isn't typically covered?
Well, predictable events. Like buying insurance for a Florida trip after a hurricane has already formed and is forecast to hit. Too late. Specific valuable items in your luggage often aren't covered, either things like eyeglasses, hearing aids, maybe laptops or phones. Baggage coverage has limits, usually per item and overall.
Losing a laptop would be painful.
Very. Also, mistakes made by your airline or tour company usually aren't covered by your insurance. That's on them. Canceling for personal reasons, just changing your mind, breaking up with a travel partner, standard policies won't cover that. High-risk adventure sports, often excluded unless you pay extra for an adventure sports rider. And naturally, anything that's your own fault, like oversleeping and missing your flight, insurance won't help you there.
Wow, that is a lot of no's. It really emphasizes reading that policy document carefully. So what about those special cancel for any reason or CR policies? They sound like the magic bullet for all these exclusions.
They sound like it, and they are definitely more flexible, but they come with their own set of rules and, frankly, costs. CFAR lets you cancel for literally any reason, no need for a covered one. That's the big appeal.
Okay, that sounds good.
And these are big buts, even CFR won't pay you back 100%. Usually it's only 50% or maybe 75% of your insured trip costs.
Only half or three-quarters back. Yeah.
And buying CFAR usually adds a significant chunk to your premium, maybe around 50% more. Plus, there are strict rules. You typically have to buy the CFAR coverage very soon after your first trip payment, often within 14 to 21 days. And you usually have to cancel your trip at least 48 hours before you're scheduled to leave to use the CFAR benefit.
So it offers ultimate flexibility, but it costs more, doesn't cover everything, and you have to act fast, both when buying and when canceling.
Exactly. It's a great option for maximum peace of mind if you accept those conditions, but it's not a perfect solution for everyone.
Okay, this is a lot to process.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting there planning your trip, what does this all mean practically? You have to decide if you buy insurance, what kind, and who from. What are the key questions you should ask yourself to make that call?
You've hit it exactly. It starts with some self-reflection. First, how solid are your plans? How confident are you that things won't change? And alongside that, what's your personal tolerance for risk? How much uncertainty can you handle financially and emotionally? For some people, just knowing they have insurance lets them relax and enjoy the planning and the trip more. That peace of mind itself has value, even if they never file a claim.
That makes sense. Worrying less is definitely a benefit. What else?
Then, the hard financial questions. Can you realistically afford to just lose the money you spend if you have to cancel? Can you afford to rebook? And what about unexpected costs during the trip? If your flight is canceled, can you pay for an extra hotel night, meals, a new flight home if needed? Those interruption costs add up fast.
Right, the what-if budget.
Precisely. And then, critically for international trips, revisit your health insurance. Does it actually cover you where you're going? If the answer is no, or very limited, then travel medical insurance becomes, well, almost a necessity, not just an option.
Okay. And assuming you decide, yes, you need insurance, what then?
Then you need to look closely at the policy itself. Ask, what exactly does this policy cover? Trip cancellation, medical, evacuation, lost bags. What are the limits? Are there optional add-ons you might need, like that adventure sports coverage or CFAR? And remember, comprehensive isn't some legally defined standard term. One company's comprehensive plan might be very different from another, so you have to read the details.
Good reminder. So we're talking about things like trip cancellation, travel medical, emergency evacuation, baggage loss, often bundled. But you need to check the specifics of your bundle. Now, what if someone's listening and thinking, okay, traditional insurance sounds complicated or maybe too expensive. Are there other ways to get some protection? Any alternatives?
Yes, absolutely. There are other avenues. One you might already have without realizing it is through your credit card. Many premium travel credit cards, you know the ones, like Chase Sapphire, Capital One Venture X, Amex Platinum offer built-in travel protections.
Oh, right. Like trip cancellation, lost luggage.
Exactly. Trip cancellation, interruption, delayed or lost luggage, often rental car insurance, sometimes even basic emergency medical or dental if you paid for the trip using that card.
That could be significant savings if you already have one of those cards.
It can be. These cards usually have an annual fee, of course, but if you travel regularly and the card's benefits replace buying separate insurance, that fee can definitely pay for itself. You just need to check what benefits your specific card offers and the coverage limits.
Okay, credit cards are one option. What else?
Well, you often see trip protection offered directly by airlines, cruise lines, or tour booking websites when you buy your trip.
Yeah, the little checkbox at the end.
Right. But here's a really important distinction Forbes Advisor highlighted. Often, this trip protection isn't actually regulated insurance. It might be an unregulated product where, say, they just waive their own cancellation fee or give you a credit for a future trip, not necessarily cash back.
Oh, okay, so it might not be as robust as a standalone policy. Less protection, maybe harder to dispute issues.
Potentially, yes. The terms can be quite different and perhaps less favorable than actual insurance.
Yeah.
It's convenient, yes. Same level of protection. Not always. Reading that fine print is crucial, too.
Good to know. Any other routes?
Some membership clubs offer plans. Think AAA, maybe Diners Club, even Costco. They often partner with major insurance providers like Allianz or Covermore to offer plans to their members. And finally, some companies, like Amex again, let you buy coverage more a la carte. You can pick and choose specific coverages or add optional riders like CFAR to a more basic policy. Gives you more customization.
So quite a few alternatives to explore beyond just buying a standard comprehensive policy. That's useful. Now let's flip it one last time. We talked about when it's needed, but when might travel insurance actually be unnecessary? When can you confidently say, nah, I'll skip it this time?
Yeah, there are definitely situations where it might be overkill. The sources point to a few. First, if your trip costs are really low, if you've booked cheap flights, staying with friends, not much prepaid, losing that money wouldn't be a major financial hit.
Okay, low financial stakes. Makes sense.
Second, if you're traveling entirely within the U.S., your regular health insurance generally works nationwide, so the big worry about international medical costs isn't there.
Right, domestic travel is usually simpler coverage-wise.
Usually. And third, if you just don't have many prepaid, non-refundable expenses tied up in the trip, maybe you booked refundable hotels, aren't doing expensive tours. If there isn't much to lose financially if you cancel, the need for cancellation coverage drops.
So it really comes back to assessing your specific trip details, your financial exposure, and your personal comfort level with risk. It's not automatic.
Exactly. Align the protection with the actual risk and cost involved in your particular journey.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today. A real deep dive into whether travel insurance is worth it. We've looked at when it's a smart bet, the benefits, those tricky limitations and exclusions, how to think through your decision, and even alternatives. And it seems clear from both Money and Forbes Advisor that there's no single right answer. It really does boil down to balancing your budget against your tolerance for what-ifs.
That's the heart of it. Travel insurance is fundamentally about knowing you can recoup some losses if things go unexpectedly wrong. It's about buying security. But that feeling of security is only real if you've actually done the research. Read the policy, understand what's covered and what's not. Comparing specific policies and providers is absolutely key before you buy.
And maybe a final thought for everyone listening. If the last few years have taught us anything, it's that plans can change in an instant. Nothing feels quite certain anymore, does it? So thinking about the unpredictable nature of travel today and everything we've discussed, especially those exclusions and policy details, how might your personal definition of worth it change for your next trip? Hopefully this deep dive gives you the tools to reflect on your own travel style and figure out the protection that truly makes sense for you.